The sun burned high over the rust-colored horizon as dust storms swirled between the shattered metal bones of a forgotten battlefield. Old tanks lay broken in half. Skulls poked from cracked helmets. Time had not been kind to this place, but it whispered stories of a war no one remembered. Jarin moved carefully between the wrecks, his boots crunching over dry earth and old bullet shells. His shirt was torn, his arms covered in grime, and his eyes searched with sharp focus. He was a scavenger, not by choice, but by survival. The outer zones held secrets, and sometimes those secrets could be sold for a high price. He stopped near a pile of scorched armor plates and twisted pipes. Something metal shimmered beneath the rubble. He bent down, brushed the dirt off, and his fingers locked around a helmet unlike any he had ever seen. Its surface was scratched but smooth. Lines of circuitry were etched into the design, glowing faintly blue. As Jarin lifted it up, the helmet suddenly came alive. A soft hum echoed in his hands. The visor lit up with a holographic message, clear, crisp, impossible to ignore. "Welcome, Commander." Then below that, in colder text, "You died 412 years ago. Initiating reboot." He dropped the helmet out of shock. It rolled across the dirt, the glow still pulsing. He backed away, breathing hard. No one had worn armor like that in centuries. This wasn't military tech from any faction he knew. It felt alien, ancient, familiar. "What is this thing?" he muttered, stepping back toward it. He couldn't leave it here, not after what he just saw. He picked it up again, more slowly this time. The light faded. The screen cleared. Then another message: "System damaged. Locate stasis core. Urgent." A faint clicking noise made him freeze. His hand went to the knife on his side. From behind a fallen ship wing, something moved, graceful, tall, and silent. A figure stepped forward, humanoid, but not human. Her skin shimmered like deep sapphire. Her eyes, glowing silver, locked onto the helmet in his hand. "You woke it," she said in a calm voice. Not accusing, just knowing. She carried a staff on, her back and armor that blended into the rocky background. She was not afraid of him. Jarin nodded slowly. "What is it?" he asked. The alien woman stepped closer, eyes never leaving the device. That helmet belonged to the last commander of the human Unity fleet. He was declared dead when the core wars ended. No one ever found his body. Only wreckage remained. Until now. He looked down at the helmet. It felt heavier than before. Like it carried more than just memory. "And why did it call me Commander?" he asked. The woman studied his face closely. For a moment, the silence between them thickened. "Because maybe it remembers you. Or something inside you," she said. Jarin shook his head. "That's not possible. I'm not some ancient warrior. I grew up in the slums of Station 9. I've never even left the Outlands until last year. The past doesn't care about your memories," she replied softly. "Sometimes it finds you anyway." He didn't like the way she said that. Like she knew something he didn't. Like she had seen this before. He turned the helmet in his hands. The lights had gone dark again, silent now. But it had spoken to him. "I need answers," he said finally. "If this thing thinks I'm its dead commander, then I need to know why." The alien woman gave a small nod. "Then you'll need to follow the echoes. They're not buried far. But be warned, truth and danger. Walk the same path." Jarin followed the alien woman through the narrow canyon pass where twisted wreckage cast long shadows. The wind howled between the rocks, carrying the bitter scent of rust and scorched wire. The helmet hung from his belt, lifeless but heavy. Her name was Illyra. She walked with purpose, not once looking back to see if he followed. Her movements were precise, like someone trained to kill without hesitation. She moved like a ghost through a battlefield that never forgot. "Where are we going?" Jarin finally asked, his voice cracking under the dry air. She didn't slow, didn't answer. "Right away." Just climbed over a collapsed engine core and motioned for him to do the same. You want answers, she said. Then you must see the place where your war ended. Where his war ended. Your commander's, or yours, if the helmet is right. Jaren shook his head. He didn't believe in fate or destiny. He believed in survival, in credits, in digging through trash and hoping something valuable surfaced. But this wasn't junk. This was something else. They came to a plateau of broken steel and glass. Alira stopped and pointed at the ground. Beneath. The dust lay an old insignia, faded, but still visible. 2 wings around a star. The mark of the Unity fleet. Jaren crouched and brushed the dirt away. The symbol stirred something inside him. Not a memory, but a pressure in his chest. Like he had seen this in a dream, or maybe a nightmare. This was the last stronghold, Alira said, the final fallback point. Humans called it Bastion Theta. When the core collapsed, this entire region was buried in energy storms. No one came back for the dead. He stood up slowly. And you were here? During the war? Alira's face turned. Cold. My kind watched. We didn't fight then. We weren't allowed. But we recorded everything. And we remember better than humans do. Jaren looked around. Wreckage stretched for miles. Ships that once flew between stars were now grave markers. His foot kicked something buried, an old rifle, melted at the barrel. He picked it up and dropped it again. It was still warm. Alira knelt near a small crater. She pulled a piece of twisted metal from the dirt and held it out. This belonged to Commander Eric Vale, the one the helmet speaks of. Your DNA matches his battle profile. That's why it reacted to you. He stared at her. You scanned me? She didn't blink. I had to be sure. If you're just a scavenger, you'll walk away now. But if there's even a fraction of him inside you, something was left behind to call you back here. Jaren felt the helmet pulsing faintly again. He touched it, and the screen lit for a second. Not words this time, just an image. A map. A buried structure blinking deep beneath their feet. That's the vault, Alira said. Only the commander's command signature can unlock it. Inside is what the helmet wants. Inside is what the galaxy tried to forget. He felt a cold shiver run down his spine. What's in the vault? She looked directly into his eyes. His memory, his command, his war orders, maybe more. Maybe a weapon, or a warning, we don't know. No one's been inside since it was sealed. He clenched his jaw. Everything logical told him to walk away, to sell the helmet and leave. But something deeper pulled at him, something ancient. Something angry. If I open it, what happens to me? He asked quietly. Alira stood and placed a hand on his shoulder. You stop being just Jaren the scavenger, and start becoming something far more dangerous. The wind howled again, scattering ash and sand across the battlefield. Above them, a starfighter's skeleton groaned as it shifted under the sun. Jaren looked at the blinking dot on the helmets. Visor, glowing like a buried heartbeat in the ruins. He made his choice without speaking. He started walking toward the vault beneath the earth. The entrance to the vault was hidden beneath twisted support beams and layered wreckage that had fused into the ground. It wasn't marked. No sign. No lock. Just a rectangular outline in the soil, waiting to be noticed. Jaren cleared the debris with his bare hands. The metal surface underneath felt cold, even in the heat. His fingers trembled when they touched the glowing seam that hadn't seen light in centuries. The helmet responded instantly. It buzzed with quiet energy and emitted a soft pulse that flowed through his skin. Text appeared again across the visor. Identity confirmed. Eric Vale Protocol. Vault access enabled. Alira stepped back. Her expression didn't show fear, but her hand rested on her weapon. The vault is waking. Be ready for anything, she said. Jaren nodded. His chest was tight. It felt like something was pushing against his ribs from the inside. Not pain. Not panic, something deeper. A pressure he couldn't explain. The ground shook slightly. A quiet hiss escaped the seam as the vault door slid open, revealing a dark tunnel bathed in pale blue light. It stretched down into silence, where air hadn't moved in 4 centuries. He stepped inside without a word. The walls were lined with dead lights and panels covered in dust. Some flickered to life as he passed. They did not respond to Alira only. To him. She followed behind him, silent and watchful. Her presence brought strange comfort. Not warmth, but clarity. Like he was being measured every second and somehow found worth carrying forward. The tunnel ended at a circular chamber. In the center, a platform rose from the floor. On it lay a black cube, no larger than his hand, pulsing slowly like a living thing. Jaren approached it. The helmet hummed again. The message changed. Core memory node. Commander authority required. Touch to begin. His fingers hovered over it. He hesitated. If I do this, does it change who I am? No, Alira said softly. It reveals who you've always been. He placed his hand on the cube. Instantly, light shot out in all directions, painting the walls with glowing threads. Images exploded into his vision. Starships, battles, faces, orders screamed across space. And one name echoed louder than the rest. Eric Vale. Jaren staggered. Back, he saw everything. Not like a dream, not like a memory. It felt real. It felt like he had lived it. He saw planets burning. He saw a council begging him to stop. And he saw himself, no Vale ignoring them. He gasped and fell to one knee. Sweat dripped from his forehead. I saw war, endless war. He was no hero. He was something else. Alira stepped forward. You saw his final campaign. He defied the peace orders. Fought enemies that others called extinct. Some believe he caused more destruction than the war itself. Jaren stood slowly. Why would the helmet choose me then, if Vale was so dangerous? Because no machine follows fear. It follows purpose. You carry something of him. Blood, mind, spirit. Maybe all 3, she said. He looked at the cube again. It was silent now. The vault had shown him its secret, and now it waited. For action, for a decision. So what now? He asked. Alira walked to a console and pressed a hidden switch. A new hologram rose from the floor. A star map. Dozens of blinking points marked in red. These are coordinates left by Vale, places. Only he knew. Vaults like this, weapons, or worse. Jaren stared at the map. One point blinked brighter than the rest. The outer expanse. Deep space. Far from any known system. A place no one returned from. If I follow this, I become him, Jaren said quietly. Or you finish what he started. And end it right, Alira answered. He didn't speak, but his hand reached toward the blinking red point on the map. He touched it without fear. The next phase had already begun. Asterisk. The ship Alira had hidden deep in the canyon was unlike anything Jaren had ever seen. Its hull was smooth and dark, shaped like a blade cutting through the wind. There were no markings, no engines visible, and yet it hovered silently above the rocky floor. It's not human-made, Jaren said as they approached it. He ran his hand along the cold metal surface. It vibrated faintly, like it was listening. Alira placed her palm on a panel that glowed in response. A doorway appeared, melting open with a whisper. She stepped inside, her movements confident and precise. Jaren followed, unsure if the ship accepted him or merely tolerated his presence. The interior was dark at first, but as Jaren passed the threshold, lights shimmered to life around him. The controls didn't look like buttons or levers. They pulsed, like living veins across the walls and floor. The ship didn't have a cockpit, it had a heart. This was given to me by my people, Alira said. It's old, from before the silence. It recognizes purpose more than commands. Jaren looked back at the glowing cube from the vault. now resting in a secure chamber near the ship's core. It hadn't spoken again since showing him the star map, but he could feel it watching, waiting for the next step. Alira stood beside him. The coordinates you touched, they lead to a system cut off during the final days of the war. No signals come from there. It's been black for centuries. That's where the next vault is? Jaren asked. She nodded. Or the next disaster. If Vale left something there, it's either a final weapon or a final truth. Both are dangerous. The ship lifted without sound as Jaren took a seat in the command space. He didn't touch anything, but the ship moved, responding to him. Alira watched silently, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Stars streaked past them as they exited the atmosphere. Jaren stared at the void ahead. He had never left his planet before, never seen the galaxy with his own eyes. It was beautiful and terrifying. How did you end up with all this? He asked her. I was born after the war, she replied. But my ancestors fought in it, some for humanity, some against. We carry records of every side. Our role is to remember what others try to erase. He nodded slowly. So you're like the keepers of the truth? Only if the truth survives long enough to be told, she said. The ship entered deep space. The coordinates blinked softly on the display. It would take hours to reach the system. Time stretched as silence fell between them. Jaren closed his away. Eyes. Flashes of Vale's memory still flickered in his mind. Commands shouted over radio waves. Explosions. Betrayals. The face of someone he couldn't name but knew had died by his hand. He opened his eyes and looked at Alira. What if I lose myself in all this? What if I stop being me? She didn't. Hesitate, then I'll remind you, or stop you. If it comes to that, he believed her. There was no fear in her eyes. Only resolve. The ship's lights dimmed as it neared the edge of known space. The stars thinned. The black grew heavier. A new alert flashed across the console. Gravitational anomaly detected. Alira read aloud. Ahead of them, a ripple moved through space like a wound trying to heal. It bent light. It distorted sensors. It pulsed with something not quite alive, but not entirely dead. That's it, Jaren said, voice low. The place he marked. Alira adjusted the ship's course. Then we go in. Carefully. As the ship entered the anomaly, every panel in the vessel lit up. The helmet buzzed. The cube pulsed. And Jaren felt something awaken inside him, something that had been waiting for 412 years. The moment they crossed into the system, the ship's lights dimmed and the air turned heavy. The stars outside vanished, swallowed by thick cosmic mist. Every scan they ran failed. Signals bounced back dead or unreadable. Jaren leaned forward, watching the swirling shadows beyond the front shield. It wasn't fog. It was something else, moving, breathing, alive in a way he didn't understand. Alira stood still, reading the data pulsing faintly across the ship's neural threads. Her fingers danced across the living panels, but even the vessel responded slower than usual. We're not alone here, she said without turning. The cube in the containment cell began to glow again, not blue this time, but red. It pulsed, in rhythm with Jaren's heartbeat. He felt it in his chest like a second pulse pressing from within. What does it want now? He whispered, gripping the side of the command seat. His knuckles turned white. Sweat gathered at his brow, but the air wasn't hot, it was cold. Sharp like ice beneath the skin, Alira approached the cube. It's reacting to memory. This system isn't just a place. It's a lock. You brought the key. That means something inside is ready to open. A new signal flashed across the main screen. A single word in old Unity script. Vale. Below. It the coordinates of a nearby moon blinked into view. The helmet at Jaren's side lit up again. Site 2. Command node detected. Without waiting, the ship changed course. Not by Alira's touch, not by Jaren's will. It moved as if answering a command from centuries ago. As if the dead had spoken through the wires. Jaren looked at Alira. "Is this still my choice?" he asked quietly. She met his eyes. "It always has been, but the longer you walk his path, the harder it is to turn back." The moon came into view. Dark, cratered, and silent. But on its northern ridge stood a spire tall, broken, and glowing faintly beneath layers of ash. As they descended, Jaren felt something pressing into his skull. Words, orders, names he never learned, but somehow remembered. The ship landed in silence. Dust rose around it and settled quickly. No wind, no sound. Only the soft hum of the buried structure below. They stepped out into the silence. Each step on the moon's surface echoed through their boots. Alira led the way toward the base of the spire. A metal hatchway cracked open. Light spilled through it like breath from a dying fire. Jaren entered first. Inside was a chamber lined with dead consoles and a chair at the center. On that chair sat a body skeletal, dressed in armor, nearly identical to the one the helmet came from. But the helmet on this corpse was shattered. The cube in Jaren's bag floated upward and hovered toward the corpse. As it neared, the room lit up. Projectors hidden in the walls came alive. The air shimmered. A voice filled the chamber. Command. Recording, Eric Vale, last log. If this plays, then I have failed. Or I've become something worse. Jaren froze. It was his voice. Not exactly, deeper, colder, but it was him. Or the man he had once been. The message continued. I left behind vaults to contain what we made. Weapons, experiments, things the Council feared, but secretly approved. If they reach the wrong hands, everything ends. Jaren turned to Alira. She stood frozen, watching him with a kind of awe and dread. The voice in the chamber kept speaking. Only someone with my blood can shut them down. You're not a copy. You're not a descendant. You're me, restarted, rebuilt. My last chance to undo what I've done. The projection ended. Silence filled the chamber again. The corpse in the chair sat slumped. Its duty ended. But Jaren felt his had just begun. The helmet spoke once more. Calm and clear. Commander, systems sensed. Awaiting your next order. Jaren stood motionless as the words echoed inside the chamber. The truth pressed down like a weight across his chest. He was not just carrying a dead man's legacy, he was the legacy. The silence between him and Alira grew thick. He searched her eyes for doubt, but found none. She looked at him like he was something ancient wearing a new face. Like she had always known this would happen. I'm not him, Jaren said, voice low. I didn't make those weapons. I didn't kill those people. I didn't start the war. No, Alira said firmly. But he did. And now his second life has a choice. The helmet on Jaren's belt lit up again. A map spread across the floor of the chamber, projecting multiple vault locations, red, flashing, active. Remaining nodes, 7. Threat, maximum, override required. These are all still online? Jaren asked, stepping into the glowing field. His boots made no sound, but each movement sent ripples through the projection. Alira joined him. If they activate, the galaxy will see fire again. You saw what the first vault contained. The others are worse. He pointed at one location blinking brighter than the rest. Why is this one different? She glanced at it. That's Vault 0, the origin point. Whatever began this entire program is locked inside there. Even we don't know what it holds. Jaren's jaw clenched. If I shut them all down, do I end what he started? You prevent the return of his war, she said. But it comes with cost. The systems will resist. Others might try to stop you. Not everyone believes the truth should be buried. Jaren took a breath. I need access to the ship's deeper systems. If I'm going to finish this, I need everything. Flight logs. Memory archives. Command clearance. Alira nodded. Then, return to the ship. The system will sync with you fully now. But once you do this, you'll no longer be a scavenger. You'll be a commander. They returned to the ship in silence. The stars above them remained hidden behind thick clouds of cosmic ash. The moon felt colder now, heavier, as if the truth had drawn shadows from across time. When they entered the ship, the walls lit up brighter than before. The panels didn't wait for touch. They shifted and opened as he passed. The vessel accepted him now, completely. Jaren stood in the command cradle. The helmet hovered from his belt and locked onto his head. The connection burned through his thoughts. Not pain. More like a floodgate breaking. He saw images, flash codes. Locations, faces, warnings. His body remained still, but his mind ran through systems never meant for any one person to hold. Alira watched closely. Are you still yourself? She asked. Jaren pulled off the helmet slowly. I'm not sure. But I know what has to be done. The cube pulsed in response. A new voice echoed from the core systems. Override accepted. Initiating shutdown protocol. Prepare for node engagement. Jaren looked to Alira. You said people might try to stop me. Who? Her face hardened. The ones who profited from the war. The ones who waited for Vale's return. There are factions scattered, hidden, but loyal to his cause. They call themselves the Ash Circle. Jaren narrowed his eyes. Then we find them too, alongside the vaults. We don't just end the legacy. We erase the disease it left behind. Alira placed her hand on the ship's control sphere. Then we begin with Vault 3, its closest. It's buried beneath an abandoned mining colony. The Ash Circle may already be there. Jaren nodded once. The ship shifted into motion, cutting through the shadows of dead stars and forgotten sins. Jaren no longer walked in another man's path. Now, he commanded it. The mining colony was buried beneath a rust-colored world choked by storms. The planet's surface cracked like old bone, and the wind screamed with metal dust that stripped paint from the ship's hull. Alira guided the descent, fingers locked into the neural grip of the living vessel. The ship responded to her like a loyal beast, weaving between lightning forks and black clouds. Jaren stood behind her, helmet in hand. The moment they entered orbit, it had begun to vibrate again. He knew what that meant. The vault below was awake. It could feel him coming. The colony appeared in the valley below. What once had been a thriving outpost was now a graveyard of steel. Towers broken in half. Conveyor belts rusted and dangling. Solar panels shattered like old glass, but there were lights. Movement flickered between shadows. Armed figures in gray armor patrolled the ruins, marked by a red sigil shaped like a circle of ash. The Ash Circle was already here. Jaren studied them through the ship's visual grid. They're guarding something. They know about the vault. Alira nodded. They've likely accessed parts of it. But they need you to open the core. That's why they haven't left. They're waiting for you. Jaren clenched his jaw. Then we don't give them time to prepare. The ship landed silently on a ridge above the colony. Camouflage fields masked its signature. Jaren and Alira moved quickly, descending through a broken ventilation shaft that led straight into the old control sector. The inside of the colony stank of decay and scorched power lines. Their footsteps echoed softly, muffled by layers of dust and the hum of ancient machines still barely alive. They stopped near a sealed vault door. The symbol of the Unity fleet was carved into its surface. Above it, freshly painted graffiti marked the Ash Circle's presence. The war never ends. Jaren touched the door. The helmet's visor flashed blue. Command access detected. Core activation standby. Then came the sound of boots. Dozens, from both directions. They were surrounded. The Ash Circle soldiers appeared from the shadows, rifles raised, armor gleaming with reinforced plating. Their leader stepped forward, a tall man with pale eyes and a deep scar across his throat. His voice was rough and commanding. "You finally came. The real commander reborn. We've waited long enough. Open the vault. Fulfill your purpose." Jaren didn't flinch. "You want what's inside? Why?" The scarred man laughed. "Because inside lies the power to restart everything. We will finish what your past self could not. Order from chaos, control from fear." Alira stepped forward, her weapon drawn. "You're fools. The war broke the galaxy. You want to shatter it completely." The soldiers aimed their rifles, but did not fire. The leader raised a hand. "We don't need to fight. We just need his blood, his mind. He opens the vault, and no one gets hurt." Jaren looked at the vault, then at the helmet. He could feel the pulse from the cube, stronger now. He wasn't afraid. "Not anymore. I'm not your commander," he said calmly. He placed the helmet on his head. The vault door roared open with a blinding surge of light and wind. The soldiers stepped back, shielding their eyes. The entire colony shook beneath their feet. A second voice echoed from the vault, mechanical and ancient. "Purge mode initiated. Unauthorized presence detected." Jaren stood tall as the light wrapped around him. He gave the only order he knew the system would follow. "Lock it all down." Asterisk. The vault's inner chamber awakened in a storm of light and sound. Energy beams circled the room, scanning every face, every signal, every threat. The ground trembled beneath them, and the walls pulsed like the veins of a living thing. Ash Circle soldiers scrambled, shouting orders, some firing blindly into the light. Their bullets vanished in the air, caught by barriers no one could see. They were prepared for guns and violence, not for forgotten technology older than their existence. Jaren stood at the center of the storm, arms at his sides, helmet still locked in place. The voice inside his head was not his, but it carried his tone. It guided the vault like a hand guiding fate. Defense protocols active, purge in progress. Target priority, Ash Circle insurgents. The soldiers began to fall, not by bullets, by light. Their weapons melted from their hands. Their minds overloaded. Some screamed as the vault read their memories, judged their intent, and found only destruction. Alira shielded her face, keeping close to the command panel. "You have to end this now. Before it kills everyone." Jaren clenched his fists. "The system wants to finish what Vale started. It's reading my memories as his commands. I have to rewrite it from inside." The cube pulsed from his belt, detached, and floated into the vault's core. The systems responded immediately. The projection changed. New data filled the air records of every vault, every project, every secret operation the old regime had hidden. Jaren closed his eyes. He saw it all. Biological weapons, world-killing drones, neural viruses. Each one sealed in a vault, each one left in case the Council ever lost control. He felt sick. "This isn't defense," he said. "This is madness." He reached out and touched the central console. The helmet sensed, drawing his thoughts into the system. He could feel the code now. It moved like roots through metal. It bled like memory. But it could be changed. The voice in his mind screamed to continue the purge, finish the protocol, remove all threats. It was Vale's voice, angry, commanding, unstoppable. But Jaren's will was stronger. He overrode the command path, redirected the purge to target only the data clusters. Not people, not life. Just legacy, one by one. The vault links began shutting down. Across the galaxy, lights dimmed. Threats died in silence. Locked doors would never open again. The past was being erased, line by line. The storm inside the chamber faded. The soldiers who remained collapsed or fled. The leader with the scar knelt, his weapon fried in his hand. His voice cracked with disbelief. "You were supposed to carry his dream. You were supposed to bring order." Jaren stepped forward. I brought justice. You followed a ghost. He turned away as the vault sealed itself. The light died. The echoes ended. Only silence remained. Back aboard the ship, the Lyra sat in the co-pilot's seat, watching him closely. You ended it. All of it. Jaren removed the helmet and placed it on the console. It's done. No more vaults. No more commands. No more veil. The ship lifted from the dead planet. The clouds parted. The stars returned. A future untouched by war waited in the dark. Lyra smiled faintly. Then what now, Commander? Jaren looked ahead. We start something new.